Welcome back and join us back on the show, Shawn Pearce with FVP Wines from Mendoza, Argentina.
Cheers.
How are you?
Great
I like that little cheers.
Let's
Let's take a sip. It's great to see you, Shawn. Welcome back. Buffalo-born Argentinian winemaker. What a great story you have.
Thanks.
You know, I love these wines that you have on the show. And being a fellow who's a native of Western New York and living in Mendoza, I'd be curious to know if there's any culture similarities between the two regions of our world. Yeah. Is there any people, weather, all the food?
For sure. There's a lot of things, actually. I mean, that's a great question. You have sports craziness, for one. You know, here, hockey, football, and any other sport, basically all the sports. In Mendoza, people are crazy about soccer and rugby. That culture is similar, following your local team, following your national team. Also, just getting outdoors and doing things. Great skiing an hour away. People play tennis all summer long. Yeah, there's a lot of those similarities in the sports area. But they're actually the same size. 1.2 million people in greater Mendoza. Great family culture. It's a small city. Everyone is a few degrees of separation from everyone else. People stop by your house unannounced.
Yeah,
I'd say it's pretty similar, actually.
And we live in wine country.
You know, thousands of miles away. And wine country, you know, yeah, of course.
That's amazing. But let's just stay with that as a winemaker and with your operation. Can you make wines that are great upon release and then also could age for 10, 15 years? You know, us in Western New York, us Americans, we're very impatient. We want to start on this upon release.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, European, they'll hang for 10, 20 years. Can you make a wine that's great upon release and then 20 years from now?
That's a tough ask in the red wine world, I would say. In white wines, you can have age-worthy wines, Riesling, Sauterne, that when they're young, all the aromatics, fruit, floral are there. They sort of disappear and something else evolves that's an age-worthy wine. On the red side of things, tannin and acidity are the biggest components you need to age a wine. Obviously, the grapes have to be great. The winemaking has to be great. You need a great wine to be able to age it and make it continue getting better. You can't age a poor wine and have it get better for sure. But tannin and acidity at high levels mean that they're tough to drink young. You would need a fatty piece of meat or a stew to kind of take the edge off those wines. I would say those components, you can watch them evolve. Like if you get that expensive Barolo, Brunello, Burgundy, and Pinot Noir, pour yourself a glass for tonight, pour yourself a glass for tomorrow. Leave it out on the counter and watch what the aging process over 20 years does in one day when it's completely exposed to oxygen.
Great.
Try that wine, and you'll kind of witness firsthand like what the potential of that wine is.
That's interesting. That's a great analogy. And right now, we're in March. It's harvest time.
That's right.
In the Southern Hemisphere.
Yep.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, my wife's going on Tuesday, so she has some work ahead waiting for her. But we just harvested Gamay, so that's our rosé we make. It's the Beaujolais grape from France. That came off last week. This week is Merlot. So those are the early ripening varieties. Next comes Malbec, Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon. The harvest season is probably about 6, 7, 8 weeks long, depending on the year. But so far it's been great. Relatively lower than average precipitation, slightly higher than average heat, but no issues there. And we've spent a lot of time and energy replacing dead plants, filling in empty areas, really monitoring soil health, plant health, making sure everything is in shape. So our production's been going great for the last couple of years and continues to get better.
And this whole thing on global warming, of course, that's happening around the world. Maybe not so much more so in your region. Are you seeing it?
Yeah, I would say the potential impact, obviously hotter temperatures, but more volatility in seasons. So that means more storms. We've seen big windstorms, hailstorms. I'd say that's kind of one of the impacts. People do focus in Mendoza on what clones they're planting when they plant, the clones that need less water, that can handle higher heat. So it is definitely top of mind for people still in Mendoza.
I'd love to have you come back and talk more about this because there's such a lot of excitement happening down in Argentina, and Mendoza is just a beautiful region of the world to create some delicious wines, and you have them. And check out Shawn's wines over at the Global Group, FVP Wines. We have a great Malbec that we featured on the show, did very well. But I appreciate you coming on. Wonderful to see you.
Thanks again. Great
have
to see you.
Have a great weekend, Shawn.
Cheers.
Shawn Pearce. He's the partner at FVP Wines down in Mendoza, Argentina. Check out his wines.